How long is too long for the Browns to wait on a wide receiver in the draft? I tested out in my latest mock draft on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast, and proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. During the tournament, FanDuel is offering you $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Just head to FanDuel.com to get started. I think I came away with some value picks on day 3 of my latest mock draft. Plus, I am moving up and down the board quite a bit in this latest mock. But I start things off the same way most mocks have had the Browns starting things off, with addressing one of their biggest needs. I throw a curveball, though, at 24, and I want to walk you through this thing step by step, show you how I came away with my latest mock draft, which included me, by the way, trying to see how long I can get away with waiting on a wide receiver. I've talked about this at length. I don't think that the Browns need to force the issue and go wide receiver at 6, or if they trade back, which I did do in this mock draft, take one at 11, 12, 13, whatever they would potentially, wherever they would potentially end up. Because I think that next tier of guys, after Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson, that next tier guys, your Denzel Bostons, your Omar Cooper Jr.'s, your Casey Concepcion, who I'm iffy on, but I do like Chris Bell. I do like Brazel from Tennessee. Like, I think that next group isn't so far of a fall off that you have to feel like you have to take one at 6 or in the top 15. So I decided, okay, let's not do that. And let's see how long I can maybe get away with waiting at this position. And I actually think it worked out for me in this instance. Now, granted, I don't know that it would fall this way, because the receiver I ended up getting, which you'll see here in a second, is somebody who I think is going to probably go day 1. But I made the most of it, and I think I still salvaged things by waiting on wide receiver and going with a different position at 24. I'll talk about who right now, because this is the latest mock. I'm pulling it up on the screen for those of you who are watching. Obviously, for those listening, I'm going to go step by step here. And this whole draft started with a trade back from 6 with the Kansas City Chiefs, of all teams, to 9th overall. I get from the Chiefs their first rounder at 9, a 3rd rounder this year, a 5th rounder this year, and a 2nd rounder next year. They were not willing to give up a 1st, so I did the best I could, got another 2nd rounder, and I give them pick 6, and I gave them pick 146 this year. So already the wheeling and dealing has begun. I actually have 4 different trades that played out in this mock, so I'll walk you through each of those. But this is the first one. I moved back to 9, and at 9, I take Spencer Fano. For what it's worth, Monroe Frilling was still there, but I'm currently operating on this theory, like I talked about late in the week last week, that the Browns could maybe lean Fano because of the fact that he's more versatile. He's played both tackle spots, and the entire game plan, this entire start of free agency, has been bringing in guys who have played multiple positions, who can play different spots in the offensive line. They've clearly made that a priority, and so I kind of wonder if they'll think that way with Spencer Fano. And so I took him at 9, He was still there, snagged him, tackle spot, checked that box, taken care of, with I think one of the best players still available on the board at this point, given how things had fallen through the first 10 picks of the draft. And just so that you're aware of who I gave up in trading back with the Chiefs, they traded up to get themselves Caleb Downs at 6. Then after that, it was Jeremiah Love, it was Francis Maui-Noah, and then it was myself with the Browns taking Spencer Fano. So that's how the board sort of fell with the trade afterwards. And I feel like I came away with a solid need addressed here and a solid player at that as well. And then we get to the second pick of the first round, pick 24, the Jaguars pick. And so I was in an interesting situation here because, yes, receiver, biggest need for this team. I would even say beyond offensive line at this point, because they've at least addressed some areas of that offensive line. Receiver, they've done nothing to this point. And so it remains their biggest need. And for what it's worth, Carnell Tate was gone. He went 11, couple spots. So he was actually still on the board when I took Fano for what it's worth. Jordan Tyson, gone. He went 12. Mekhi Lemon went 14th. And so those are the only receivers off the board at this point. But I get the 24, and I've talked about this. The Browns, in an ideal world, want to be able to operate in a place where they can take best player available. And that's all this is. I take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety out of Toledo. PFS, by the way, highest graded safety in the last 2 years, 3 years. He's not necessarily going to pop off the page when it comes to certain traits in his game, I would say. Like his RAS score is, more average, if you will. But I mean, listen, he got up 9.13, so he was still pretty high up there. But like his vertical leap isn't jumping off the page. His broad jump isn't jumping off the page. His height and weight isn't necessarily the bright spots of him. He doesn't have those, elite traits of what a certain type of a prototype type of a safety looks like necessarily. But he is a little bit bigger than Caleb Downs. He's listed at 6'3". He is, which that's, one of the bonus parts of his RAS score. And the tape speaks for itself. He's athletic as hell. He can make a lot of plays in running sideline to sideline across the field. He is absolutely a player that's going to go top 10 by all accounts. And the Browns did host him on a top 30 visit. So I liked the value here. And in a world where I think the Browns do ideally want to operate where they can take best player available in certain instances, I felt like this was the right move to take a safety, fill a potential need, because as I've talked about, they don't have a nickel corner, and nowadays teams are utilizing different guys in that nickel spot. Sometimes it's a safety, sometimes it's a corner. I think there's still room for them to take a corner at some point in the draft based on how this thing is going so far. But and plus we don't know for sure if Ronnie Hickman's coming back. He has the tender on his in front of him, but he has to see if other teams offer him anything, and if the Browns then match, then he'll probably stay, or he would stay. But that has to play out still. So this might become a bigger need in the coming weeks too. But even if it's not, I think bolstering the safety depth is an important thing. One of the more less talked about needs for this franchise. And I think Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is going to be awesome at the next level. And he kind of provides, because he is a little taller, he can be more of that Nick Emmanwori like the Seahawks have, who did play a lot in the slot and came down in the box quite a bit. I don't know that Caleb Downs is built quite enough to do that in terms of his stature, but Emmanuel McNeil-Warren checks those boxes. So I like him here. It was a value pick. It was best player available. And I wait even longer on wide receiver. For those who have seen it on the screen, you know who I am taking. I'll explain what happened with that, though, because it wasn't so clear-cut that I was going to end up with Omar Cooper Jr., and I had to make another move in order to ensure that I got him. We'll walk through that. I'll tell you how it happened and why it does feel like maybe waiting isn't the best idea. We'll get to all those things coming up next on a Mock Draft Monday here of the Locked On Browns podcast. The tournament is here. One of the best times of year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's non-stop action from tip to the final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. I'm already looking ahead to next weekend's slate of games. You got Purdue as a slight favorite over Texas in that 2-11 matchup. You got Arkansas and Arizona, which is going to be a heavyweight battle. Illinois and Houston, who suddenly have new life in their region because Florida's out of the picture to potentially win that region. And Houston is a slight favorite at the moment. Plus Duke and St. John's, the battle of two of the best coaches in college basketball. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need to make the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping for the right candidate to stumble across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. The minute I'll be talking about Indeed, the companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. When you need to make the right person cut through the chaos, Indeed sponsored jobs is there to help. And listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get that premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just head to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, so I waited on wide receiver. Ill-advised, probably, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people ripping me for doing so. But when you see who I end up with, I actually think you're going to be okay with it. And this is a guy who I've been mocking to the Browns more recently. It's a guy that I love. Yes, I'm talking about Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. Obviously a national champion, tremendous numbers, more of a slot-style guy who the Browns could use. I think it's important to note that. They could certainly use his presence in the slot, and he can do so many things well. I'm so intrigued by the idea of Omar Cooper Jr. And here's the thing. I don't know that this is going to play out this way for me because the first round ended and he was still there. I traded up from 39 to 33. I gave up pick 39, pick 107. I got pick 33 and pick 140 from the Jets to make this move. And I come away with Omar Cooper Jr. as the first pick of the second round. So I'm being aggressive here, making a move up because Omar Cooper Jr. to me was the best player still available on the board going into day 2. And so I take him. Again, I don't think he makes it to day 2. That's the challenging part in this. I took a chance. I risked it a little bit. I came away with Omar Cooper Jr. still. And I even did think about trading back up into the first round to get him because I understood how good of a player I think he's going to be and where I have him graded. But I lucked out that he made it to day 2, and I didn't waste any time trading up because I was like, I'm not going to screw around. I'm not going to see if he makes it any further. I'm just going to make the trade up and see what happens. And it just so happens I ended up getting him at 33. So I get Omar Cooper Jr., and then at pick 70, I grab his teammate and Elijah Surratt. Again, one of these situations where he was one of maybe 2 best players available at that time. Felt like the Browns still can add to the wide receiver room. I think they are going to be able to, theoretically, unless they make a trade before the draft, add multiple guys in this draft to that wide receiver group. And to get the 2 teammates from Indiana who just won a national championship is not a bad idea. And they complement each other well because Omar Cooper Jr. is more of a slot guy and Elijah Surratt is more of an outside guy who is incredible in 50-50 situations, coming away with those balls. He's not necessarily the fastest guy. I think he loses speed a little bit when he gets downfield. But I'll tell you right now, he gets open without the speed. He's really good with his footwork, solid route runner overall. And again, his catch radius is stellar, especially on those 50-50 situations. He goes up and gets it. He uses his frame to sort of block guys out and box guys out. Very impressed with his tape. Not enough that he should obviously be a first rounder, but third round and a chance to keep these guys together who were obviously part of the championship winning Indiana team. I don't hate it here. And I just, also another thing he was really good at in college, by the way, he was great at like the back shoulder throws, bringing those in and Fernando Mendoza had some really good placement on a lot of those, which is part of the reason why he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. But man, he does the thing where, and receivers, some of the best receivers are good at this. Like, even when he's not open, he's open if you put the ball in the right spot because he's going to come down with it. And that is something that intrigues me about Elijah Surratt. So I go back-to-back wide receiver here, get the 2 kids from Indiana, and all of a sudden your wide receiver room looks completely overhauled in a good way, and you feel like you got something there. So I liked these 2 picks. I thought there was value. I thought best player available in both situations for the most part, and no one's the wiser. So then, after that, I was at 74 because I had the Chiefs pick when I traded back with the Chiefs, and I decided to trade back again. At this stage of the draft, I believe like Dennis Sutton was still there, and I'm not saying the Browns wouldn't take him in the best player available situation, but I saw an opportunity to add more draft capital So I come away with a third rounder next year and pick 82 from the Vikings this year. I give up 74 and 140 this year. And the Vikings, I don't even think they took Denied Dennis Sutton. I think it went like one pick after that. But the Vikings got somebody they really wanted. I get a future pick out of it. No one's the wiser. I'm good with it. And we keep it moving. That brings me to pick 82, where I traded back 2. And I take center Logan Jones out of Iowa. Value pick at this point. Jones isn't necessarily, like, he's not the best lineman coming out of Iowa this year. I think Jennings Dunker is probably that probably takes that crown. But listen, this was the Joe Moore offensive line this past year. And Logan Jones himself, on his own, won the Remington Award, which is obviously the award that goes to the best center in football. So he was at the forefront of their success in the middle of that offensive line. Like his tape, like what he brings to the table. And I do think the Browns are looking for multiple linemen in this draft. And honestly, maybe he wasn't the best lineman at Iowa, because, again, I think Jennings Dunker gets that honor. But if you're taking linemen from anywhere, Iowa's not a bad place to go. They breed O-linemen out there. O-linemen and tight ends. And there are certain places where, like, if you get no lineman, you just feel like it's going to work out. Iowa's one of them. Same thing with, I think, Notre Dame oftentimes has a lot of good offensive linemen. There's just certain schools that are O-line factories, and Iowa's one of them. So I don't hate the pick here. And frankly, as I talked about I did a projection last week of the Browns offensive line, Elton Jenkins could play center, but if Joe Bitonio isn't coming back, he also could play left guard, where, by the way, he was a 2-time Pro Bowler. That's not a bad place to be, all things considered. And so if that's how they want to set this thing up, potentially, hypothetically, then I do think that it sets the stage for you draft a guy that can maybe be your starting center or compete with Luke Whippler even to be your starting center. I don't hate either of those outcomes if that's what it comes to. You're sort of rebuilding this offensive line over the course of years. It's not just going to be a 1-year thing. And so we have to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I like this pick here, and I don't think you can go wrong drafting multiple offensive linemen in any draft, let alone guys that you just feel like can kind of fill out the depth chart and add more, developmental options and players that you're trying to see if they become anything. It's fine by me. So I thought that was a good middle couple days and middle couple rounds there in the second and the third, and that sets the stage for our 4th through 7th rounds, where more trades go down for the Cleveland Browns as I wheel and deal to move up and down the board and make some final picks. Who did I come away with when it was all said and done? We'll walk you through the day 3 picks in my latest mock draft on a Mock Draft Monday here on the Locked On Browns podcast. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which might just be sleepers. The board is set. The flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5-Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors, so there's really something for everyone. Plus, their shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. After much deliberation, although not really, because I kind of knew what I wanted to do from the beginning, I like keeping it simple. That's just me. I can't go wrong with a good old-fashioned grape flavor 5-Hour Energy shot. But listen, there's 17 flavors to choose from, including some exciting ones: Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, which I haven't tried yet. But listen, I'm getting Fruity Pebbles vibes, which takes me back to my childhood. Sign me up for that. And even Cotton Candy. Find your new flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots, available online and at 5-Hour Energy or at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. All right, day 3 picks in my latest mock draft here on a Mock Draft Monday. And so far, I tested the waters on waiting on wide receiver. Still came away with Omar Cooper Jr. miraculously. And I got his teammate Elijah Surratt. I fixed the tackle position by getting Spencer Fano. I found a center in Iowa's Logan Jones, and I have set the stage for developing some young pieces and got us to day 3 with still some moderate things to figure out and fill. But I think generally this draft turned out pretty okay for me in the grand scheme of things, even though I don't necessarily think Omar Cooper Jr. would really realistically be there on day 2 for me to take if I waited. But it was worth a try, and I also got a best play available safety and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as well. So that brings us to day 3. And I'm going to go through this here where I do end up with a quarterback. I do first, though, want to remind you that if you haven't already, go check out the Everydayer Club. It's your chance to get the show ad-free for just $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month. And you can get the show ad-free, access to our members-only Discord channel where I'm jumping in and commenting with you guys, having conversations about the Browns, but about other teams as well. And you get the show ad-free, like I said, with any audio platform of your choosing. Just go to lockedonbrowns.supercast.com or check out the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, so we get to day 3 of my latest mock draft on a mock draft Monday. And I have another trade that's coming on down the pike here. But I do stay put with the other 5th rounder that the Browns own at 149. And I end up selecting Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. Maybe controversial. I know there's a lot that's being said about the quarterback position right now, but I maintain the Browns are going to add someone to this group. And at this point, at this stage, it feels like inevitably it's probably going to be somebody in the draft. And that Tom Monken's going to treat it like a project, and I'm going to draft and develop this guy, see what I can do, and see what we can turn him into. And so Drew Aller gets to come in, compete a little bit, but probably not start immediately, and they're going to try to develop him. The hometown kid comes home. Part of this, too, was value. Drew Aller's projected as like he's projected in some mocks to go like late 3rd round, early 4th round. He was still there at pick 149 when he's, you see for those watching this, you see the PFF like big board number, and he's 122. So I got him like almost 30 picks later. And so the value at that point was there for a team that obviously I think is going to add a quarterback in some capacity. I don't hate it. Maybe you're not a fan of Aller. I understand the complaints, and I certainly have been critical of his college tape as well. But I also have wondered, like, maybe it wasn't the right situation at Penn State. Maybe he didn't have the best coaching at Penn State. I'm intrigued by what Tom Monken can maybe do for him. The biggest downside maybe is that the pressures of coming home, playing in Cleveland, all those things. I get that. But I think at this point it's worth taking a chance on him, and I'd like to see him get some time and patience to sort of grow and develop. So I take him at 149, and then I immediately, 3 picks later, am trading back up with the Dallas Cowboys because I have my eyes and my sights set at this point on Oscar Delp, tight end out of Georgia, has ties to Tom Monken because he was there, or he got there when Tom Monken was still there, when he was the offensive coordinator, and they won a couple national championships. I trade for pick 152. I give up pick 176 and pick 206 to the Cowboys, so they get my next 2 picks in this deal to move up and draft Oscar Delp at 152 because I love him. And I've fallen more in love with him in recent weeks because his athleticism has been on full display. The kid has a lot of those traits that you look for in a tight end at the next level, and I feel really good about his athleticism and ability to be a downfield threat for the Browns alongside Harold Fannin Jr. And they've already kind of addressed the blocking part of this because, yes, you lose that with David Njoku leaving, but Jack Stoll sort of fills that void for you. So from here, it's just about, okay, can you find anybody else to kind of complement the group? Another downfield option in an offense that likes to run a lot of 12 personnel and multiple tight end sets. I love it. I think this is, and honestly, like PFS value chart has him at 152. I took him at 152. So pretty spot on there. And I think, I don't know if Delp is somebody who has also kind of risen up boards, same way as Georgia teammate Monroe Freeling has. So I don't know if he makes it this far, but he was there in this instance, and I was like, I'm not missing him. I'm trading up to get him. Might as well. And so I grab Oscar Delp and get another tight end to add to this group. And then I round things out at 248, one of the last picks of the draft. taking linebacker Owen Heineke. Linebacker is one of those positions for the Browns that I feel like can always be added to. And right now, the depth just isn't there. Yes, it's Carson Schlesinger. And yes, it's now Quincy Williams who comes in. And I feel really good about those guys. Behind him, it's a lot of young, unproven talent. Nathaniel Watson, Winston Reed. Like there's just there's not a lot of quality players at that position group behind those top two guys. And listen, they could still add somebody in free agency maybe as a late signee. I'm not saying those things aren't possible. I'm sure they will add to that group. But I also think they can add to it in the draft. And so finally I get to linebacker and I get Owen Heineke, who, by the way, there's some good tape from Owen Heineke. Not necessarily the fastest guy, but there's a lot of instances where he does a solid job in man and zone coverage. So you get a guy that can kind of cover sideline to sideline in certain instances, in certain packages, in certain situations. I like that in my linebackers, especially in an NFL where, tight ends are out running routes and better than ever at getting open. You want somebody that can do those things. So I like the pick here, felt sort of value in it. And I think ultimately finding a linebacker in this draft is probably something that's pretty possible or a realistic option for the Browns in some capacity. So that's my latest mock. Another mock draft Monday in the books. And let me know how I did at Spencito_. You can hit me up on X. Also in the comments at the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed already, please make sure you do subscribe because you can always get involved in the conversation there. Listen, hit me up in the Discord channel if you're an everydayer because I'll respond. I'll get back at you and you can let me know your thoughts on my latest mock draft. If you liked who I came away with, again, I thought I did pretty well for waiting till day 2 for a wide receiver and still getting Omar Cooper Jr. I don't know if that's realistic, but I wanted to give it a whirl just to see if I go best player available at 24 and it's not a receiver, what happens from here. And it kind of worked out for me in this instance. Doesn't mean it will in real life, but in this instance it did. So, but listen, I get where some people probably don't want to wait that long, and that's maybe something you can debate with me in the Discord channel at the Everydayer Club if you so choose to join, which again, you can find at lockedonbrowns.supercast.com, and you get the show ad-free on any audio platform of your preference for just $5 a month. Also, make sure that you keep it local and check out my friends at Locked On Cavs and Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being every day at the Locked On Podcast Network. I will talk to you again later on Monday. We're going to give out grades for the position groups to this point. See you then.